BallisLife.com here at the Tarkanian Classic with Bishop O'Dowd, head coach Lou Richie. Coach, appreciate you joining us. I want to talk a little bit about today about transitioning from middle school ranks to high school ranks, and also transitioning from the high school ranks to the college ranks. You were able to play at the college level, and you have coached some high level talent, and this year you have a younger team. So talk a little bit about the transition from having a team that won the CIS State Open Championship with the top 5 players such as Ivan Rabb, who's at Cal, to now coaching younger kids, and you want to get back to that level eventually.
Well, I think as a coaching staff, we had to be very realistic with ourselves and kind of set the expectation and manage the expectation. That was the most important thing.
Sure.
We had a very young team, only one real returner coming back, no starters, and we lost 8 seniors. So being patient, trying not to get too off kilter. How can we expect a 14-year-old to keep their emotions intact when we as 40-year-olds have trouble with it? So I think that was the building block right there, setting that in the back of each coach's mind in the spring, going through summer league and seeing how young we were. And now, realizing that, we have to go back to the basics, setting and taking screens, talking, just the things that we took granted for with our seniors, and having an Ivan Rabb, Paris Austin were always bailouts. Anytime we as coaches made mistakes or other players made mistakes, they were able to bail us out. So it's really going back to the basics and just being patient with them.
Gotcha. You talk a little bit about patience here, and obviously you want to build. How difficult or what are the challenges of having kids who are used to playing, whether it's on their grassroots team and they get a lot of freedom, to being a little bit more structured, and they go from quote unquote being the man to do what you want to do in your setting, and they're obviously very young. So how do you talk a little bit about that for our coaches out there?
I think it's very difficult because they're hearing a lot of voices.
Sure.
They're coming up as heralded 7th and 8th graders or heralded 9th graders, and they're used to being able to do what they want to on their team, or they're used to listening to family and friends who are only focused on them.
Sure.
So getting them to understand by going to college practices. Yesterday we went to UNLV and got a chance to sit down and listen to how Coach Rice, how he really coached his kids. They set screens, they talked, they weren't one dribble and penetrate against 5. It was really running an offense. So getting them to understand, even though they might think at the next level, you're just going to do whatever you want to, the reality is you're not. You're going to have to run an offense, whether it's in college or at the pro level.
Got you. So we talk about the different levels, and you had a unique experience. You finished at Bishop O'Dowd, that's your alma mater, in class of '89, and you walked on at UCLA. And then, by your own words, I wrote a miss, you didn't make the team. So you went to junior college round and you ended up at Clemson. So talk a little bit about that experience and what advice you would give to a kid who's maybe just thinking about walking on at a high level, maybe except compared to taking a financial aid or a scholarship at a lower school.
Well, for me, it was an easy decision. Both my parents were the first in their family to go to college. So for me, going to the biggest college I could was critical. So getting into UCLA or going to a Pomona-Pitzer, to me, Pomona-Pitzer wasn't an option for me. But I would say something different to a kid nowadays. I'd say go where you're going to thrive the most, where you're going to grow the most, whether you're going to get your undergraduate degree and then go on to get your master's. So my first year, I asked my high school coach, Coach Phelps, would he call Coach Herrick and recommend me walk on? And he said no. I was like, what do you mean no? He said, I can't do that. You're not that good.
Yeah.
So I went down, and I tried out, and I didn't make the team.
Sure.
And then I worked 6 to 8 hours every day, became better, made it that next year. Made a horrible choice in terms of taking my college coach's cell phone, Coach Godfrey, who's now at North Carolina State. They asked me to leave the team, went JUCO. I remember being in junior college where they said, the reason you're here is because you're the bottom of the barrel. You're not that good. So I remember that 20 years later.
Sure. And drives you,
that's what you have to have that motivation where things are against you and you have to rise to the top. So I had a scholarship offer to Georgetown or Clemson, and I took Clemson. And I know we've talked in the past, the difference between a high school practice and a college practice is like night and day. You're going to have college coaches that might be trying to play psychological games with you. They're trying to motivate you. They might be bringing in the next recruit.
Might recruit over you real fast.
It's a business. So getting our kids to understand when you pick a school like Ivan or anyone else, pick where you want to go, not just to go play ball, but where you want to get your degree from.
Wow. Yeah, you kids don't always think about the rest of their life. They may play 7 to 10 years of pro ball, and then they got 40 years to live. So that's great advice there. You talk a little bit about choice. I know you're very, very cognizant of getting your kids to look scouts or media in the eye, introduce themselves, Talk a little bit about why you emphasize that. It's an obvious reason, but how you do it, and what do the kids get for that, and what have kids told you coming back? Now I get it, Coach. I know what you were talking about.
Well, I think for me, growing up in Oakland and trying to be hard and trying to be from the streets, I had a man in my life that really saved my life, Sam Robinson. We call him Uncle Sam, and he's helped a lot of kids in East Oakland. And he taught me, you look someone in the eye, you shake their hand firmly. So when I was in junior college, I got into a little bit of trouble again, and he got me out of that trouble. And he told me he would get me a college scholarship if I promised him 3 things: never lie to him, get my degree, and come back to Oakland and help the kids in Oakland. So that's what I did. So, you look at 10, 15 years later, I had a kid named Johnny Bryant who was struggling at home. His mom was working 3rd shift. She had, some medical conditions, and he ended up coming and living with me his senior year in high school. So he had a 1.8 GPA. He didn't go to summer school, went to play for the Soldiers, so he was ineligible his junior year. So we worked, day in and day out, started studying incremental, and by senior year he had 3.0, but he didn't qualify. He was a prop kid. So he went JUCO, then he graduated in 1 year, went All-State. His senior year he had an All-Star game. I think he scored 56 points against Allende in the OAL. And then he went to Utah. He got 2 degrees in 3 years, went to play professional ball overseas, retired, married his college sweetheart, and now he's an assistant coach for Utah Jazz. So when you talk about success stories, someone like that, every Father's Day or Christmas, he'll say, Lou, thank you so much. I love you to death. Thank you for being there for me. Those are the type of stories that I can tell kids and say, look, here's the blueprint, follow it.
Yeah, it's very powerful because you always think, we have so much choices out here, and sometimes we turn our back on kids and maybe they just need a chance or that second chance, and it's very powerful and prominent. Last thing I wanted to mention was talk a little bit about what advice you would give the kids for making the transition from high school to college or even the junior college level, and then the college's practices you talk about.
I think first off the court, you have to have plan A, plan B, plan C. Why are you going to college? What are you going to get your degree in? What are you going to have a career in? You want to get your master's. And then I think on the athletic side, you made that choice to go to that school for a reason. You got to believe in that coach. You got to believe in the process. Freshmen most times don't come in and have a major impact all across the country. You have a sprinkling of them, but usually you're going to have to wait your turn or you're going to have to play a role. Just like as a freshman, you probably weren't a star on your varsity team. So I think that's the biggest thing for kids is being patient. So many kids want instant gratification nowadays, and the transfer rate is out of control. So I think that's what it is. Why are you transferring? Don't run from your problems, because if you run from your problems, that's going to start to be a pattern as you get older. There's no commitment in terms of being a good husband, in terms of being a good father, in terms of running your company.
Gotcha. Well, Coach Richie, appreciate the input there. That's some great insight, and congratulations again on winning the state open championship last year.
Thank you very much, Ryan.
Thank you.
All right, brother.
All right. Thanks.